Hey everybody, it's Pat Jones, and we're here with another TurfZoom brought to you by our friends at Aquatrols. We're talking today with somebody that I've known for a couple of years, 25 plus, by his reckoning. Charlie Fultz, welcome to the TurfZoom.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, Pat. Pleasure
Well,
seeing you again.
you may regret that later, but we'll give it a
Yeah,
try.
exactly.
For in case anybody's been under a rock for the last 25 years and has not had a chance to know about you or follow you, give me the sort of elevator version of your background in the industry and how you ended up running a golf course out in the great state of Virginia. So, how did you get started, and what was your sort of progression through the industry?
Well, started working as a cart boy at the age of 17 at the Chimbley Golf Resort, which I actually ended up coming back 17 years later and actually running as a superintendent. Cart boy, moved to maintenance for a couple of summers, went to college not to be a turf guy, I actually have an education degree, and met the guy who got me into the business, a guy by the name of Jeff Thompson, who now ironically is a pastor, retired from the business and is a pastor. Jeff got me into the business right after I graduated college, and there was a hiring freeze on teachers in Virginia in 1992. There, I just dated myself. There was a hiring freeze, so unless the teacher had retired or left, they were not looking to hire teachers, and I couldn't find a job. Ended up at a grow in with Corey Haney. There's a name who's been retired now for a few years up at Bristow Manor in Northern Virginia. And about 8 months later, Jeff called me because I'd worked for him in college and said, "Hey, you want to come help me grow in a golf course?" And we went in and grew in a golf course down in the eastern part of Virginia called Cameron Hills. Jeff left and took another golf course, and a couple years later, I became a superintendent for the first time at the ripe old age of 24. Was a mile over my head, and spent 13 years as a superintendent, finishing up at Chimbley in Newmarket, Virginia, 27-hole resort course. Left the business for almost 13 years. My youngest son was diagnosed with autism, and in order to get the services he needs, and he's now, by the way, turns 21 in September, um, I took a job with Grigg Brothers and spent 3 years with Grigg Brothers as their technical rep. Um, Came back to the business after owning my own, after teaching a math teacher for 3 years.
Right, right.
And yeah, I know, crazy. I taught middle school math for 3 years and had my own athletic field management company for six. Actually was hired by the city in 2020 to be the fields manager, and COVID hit. The superintendent here at Heritage Oaks retired, and they needed a superintendent. I took a dual role as the fields guy and golf course superintendent during COVID. September of that year, the general manager resigned, and I took the tri role of general manager, superintendent, and fields, and did that for 2 years. Yes, unbelievably did that for 2 years. I don't know how. And
Yeah.
a fields guy was hired, a great guy from Florida by the name of Todd Campbell, and has come in and done an amazing job. And I had to interview for my job, and they created a new golf course manager position, which is the superintendent slash GM. And I took that on. I've actually been the GM for almost 4 years, but 2 years ago, I actually got the permanent title. So it's been a hell of a run.
It's amazing, and it just proves there's no single background in this industry that's like the background. But at the time when you were 24 years old and you were a golf course superintendent for the first time, you had to sort of bucked a trend because most people had turf degrees at that point. That was the heyday of the 4-year turf degree. How did you how did people react to that you didn't have the traditional background?
I went through 9 golf courses and interviews and was told no. I made it to the final two, the final three. I was really good at selling myself. Never had a problem, gift of gab, as you well know, but was able to sell myself. And Jeff was a fantastic teacher. Jeff sent me to every seminar, to every, if there was something local, he sent it to me. He brought magazines in and said, would dog ear a corner on an article and say, "I want you to read this. We're going to talk about it tomorrow." So I read everything that was out there, and he knew I wanted it. And I went through 9 golf courses where I got into the final three and turned down And finally, the 10th one, I got into the final two and was able to secure a job. I just got better at the interview process
Yeah.
through those nine. The first couple probably had no business being in those interviews because I was so bad. But as I continued to move through the interviews, I got more confident in what I could talk about and what we had done at the grow in courses. And finally, a golf course took a chance on me. In January of 1995, the ripe old age of 24, somebody took a chance on me. And that was an ironic course because 6 weeks later, the course was sold. And I had to
Oh,
interview for my
right,
job again
right.
with new ownership. That was
Does it
frightening.
does it does it seem like a bad dream going through all that stuff? Or
It
does it
really
seem
does.
or does it seem like the best preparation you could have ever had for this business?
Well, as crazy as this business is, looking back on how the heck I got here, it was all just prep. It really was.
Yeah. You learn a lot of lessons from hardships like that, but so you also learn though from, and I'm fascinated by this idea that you and I know a few other people that have done that, left the industry. Working for Grig Brothers was kind of obviously industry adjacent, and I think today's salespeople are even more engaged in the market than they ever have been before, and more part of the culture of the profession. But teaching and going back and teaching again, what did you learn from that and take away from that time you spent teaching in a classroom every day?
Well, imagine being a first year teacher at the age of 42.
Mhm. Right.
That was interesting when a bunch of 22-year old first year teachers are in orientation. And I'm looking around going, wow, I'm a lot older than these kids. One of the things, the principal that hired me, Shelby Klein, who I can continue to this day, she and I still speak to each other, via text or whatever, at least once a month. Shelby taught me something that I have never forgotten. She taught me early on. She said, when you come into a classroom, um, one, each kid's different, but two, you have no idea what that kid may have gone through the night before. There are kids that came, not tagged, but hey, this kid's kind of, teachers talk. This kid was kind of difficult, and I had problems with this kid. And when you start finding out what some of these kids, their only meals sometimes were the meals the school had. The area that I live in and still live in, I think 60% of the kids are on reduced lunches. So there's a lot of poverty in the area. And it was a learning that not only I didn't know what these kids were going through at home, or, was a kid sitting there hungry with me, because they hadn't had breakfast because the parents didn't have the money to have breakfast, or what were they going through at home? And that crosses over to every industry, to every profession, to every job. Whether it's a golfer coming in here who gets just upset at us on the golf course, or somebody coming in, but more relatable to my employees. I don't know everything about my employees. I know a lot about their families because we are kind of a small, tight unit. But I don't know what went on the night before. I don't know what's gone on the week before. Have there been issues in their marriages? Have there been family issues? We talk about deaths in the family, but are there things that we just don't know about? And that's something that I've learned, that I need to keep that in mind at all times, that there may be a simple reason behind an employee being unhappy, and it isn't as simple as, oh, they just don't want to be here. No, there's probably something that's causing that. There's a root problem that
Yeah.
we don't know about, and it really changed my perspective on handling employees by how I learned to handle kids.
Our friend Dean Graves, who retired
Yep.
from Chevy Chase a few years ago now, he wrote an article for me at GCI and the turfheads takeover issue, which I really think is one of the better things that's ever been written in the industry, about empathy and how
Yep.
important empathy is as a management tool. And then if you ask him how he managed to, for 30 years, produce great conditions and have a great team and have great people and very little turnover. It all came back to empathy and just understanding what they were going through and talking to them like human beings as much as
Yep.
he could. And it sounds like that was kind of part of the lesson that you learned as well. So, what did you learn from sales? Obviously you made that switch at a time when there was still kind of this, oh, salesmen, they're all they are is people who couldn't be superintendents, and What can you prove? What can you tell me? How was that transition?
Well, I heard more than a few times in my travels, I had officially joined the dark side.
Yeah,
That
right.
was that,
Hate
that
that.
was the phrase.
Hate that. Right.
I did too. You know, I realized I was not the nicest superintendent um, to salespeople in my prior incarnation before coming back. Especially going out and working with new salesmen because I had a lot of new salesmen with Greg was expanding, and going out with them and learning that at times I was not the nicest guy to people coming in, really just trying to put a face, letting you know who they were. They weren't trying to specifically sell me something. They just, hey, I'm here, I'm available if you need it. And I was not a nice guy. And
Mm,
I got to go out though with some seasoned sales guys, Corbin Turf guys out of South Carolina, North Carolina, who are just amazing people, and spent FaceTime with them, car time with them, talking to them, and realizing, um, you know, they're offering a service. They're offering things to the superintendent, but I learned how well they did it. They
mm,
treated their customers so well, and the customers respected them in return. And even going into a new course, you walk in and you hear Corbin Turf, and it might be a new superintendent. They knew who Corbin Turf was.
absolutely.
So, word of mouth of the company was this is a really good company. And there are a lot of other distributors. Adam Ancherico, Eastern Turf, North Carolina. Love Adam. Also a diehard Kiss fan. But I got it in there.
Yeah,
Got it
we
in
got to
there.
that.
But probably the biggest thing I learned was relationships. The,
Yeah.
the distributors that were really, really good had worked those relationships and worked them hard, but a relationship that had mutual respect. And I will admit, as a young superintendent, God, I was not good. I'm embarrassed by it. There's a great story with Kevin Conley and Landscape Supply. If you ever want to hear about the voicemail that I left after a sales call,
Mm,
his dad used it as a sales tool. It was that bad.
yeah.
Um, Kevin has a great story. It was one of his first visits out, and I was just awful. But that's one of the things I learned from these guys, and being with Greg for 3 years was it's about relationship and mutual respect. And if you have both of those things, it goes a long way.
I saw. I did some research not too long ago on this very subject about how DSRs and superintendents and manufacturers reps all kind of interrelate. And one of my somebody I respect a lot from that side of the business said every place that we have a manufacturer's rep who has a good relationship with a distributor sales rep, we see success.
Yep.
So you're
Fact.
exactly
Simple. Yep.
okay. Okay, you brought it up, so I got to roll with this. You took me to my first Kiss concert. I'm 62 years old. I think I was 59 then or whatever it
Yep.
was. And I had never been to a Kiss concert, nor had I ever had any interest in going to a Kiss concert until you convinced me to go. Tell me about your love for all things Kiss.
It is the Kiss world, and I choose to live in it. I have another person that you introduced me to, and I'm going to say Chris Tierney.
Christian, yeah.
We are diehards. I heard Kiss Alive 2 at the age of 7,
Wow.
down the street. A guy who got me into playing drums, and Kiss was playing along to Kiss Alive 2 when I got off the bus one day, and I heard him just wailing on his kit, and I heard Kiss Alive 2, and I went, "What is that?"
Uh,
And my sister heard it. She's a few years older than I am, and I got my first album, which was Kiss Alive 2 at the age of 7. And you look at the cover of Kiss Alive 2, believe me, Kiss is a band, but they're also a brand. And you know that, and they just don't sing, they put on a show. And you
oh
got to
yeah.
see it firsthand. And I saw Kiss Alive 2 and opened that album up and saw the inside of that thing. I went, oh my gosh. And I was blown away. And here I am 40 plus years later. I saw them 14 times in concert. All the incarnations I got to see, but one of the band. And
Uh,
I even named my landscape company after my favorite Kiss song, which was Strutter. My company was known as Strutter Turf. So I'm a diehard, and like I said, it's a Kiss world, and I choose to still live in it, even though they're now retired.
it's more than just a brand and a band, it's a cult. That's
It,
what
it
that's
is.
what I
It
that's
really
what
is.
I
You
heard.
know, we have issues and we're not afraid to admit it.
Yeah, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed going to that concert, and I also felt very comfortable there because everybody was old. It was all just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of old folks all wearing massive amounts of KISS stuff, so it was very impressive, I really appreciate I really enjoyed that, so
It was an amazing show with you, and I got to see their third to last show ever in Baltimore before the 2 night stay in Madison Square Garden when they called it quits. And
great, ever.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
no, they won't ever come back again.
well, they just sold their entire catalog for $300 million
Yeah, that's a thing
to
now.
a foreign company, so they don't even own the rights to their music or the makeup or anything anymore. So
So the other thing you just mentioned is how many nights a month do you still play drums with a band? How many chances do you get?
generally 2 to 3 Saturdays a month. Playing in a pop rock band, a female fronted vocalist who is amazing. And yeah, I've been playing drums since I was 11, and been in bands now for the past 20 couple years. And yeah, there's a good chance on a Saturday night you will find me behind the kit. One of my kick drums has a Kiss sponsored theme logo on the kick,
Uh,
shockingly enough. But yeah, generally you'll find me playing pop and rock music 2 to 3 Saturdays a month.
so I have kind of a serious question. Do you have hearing loss from all the outside work and blowers and mowers and then drums? Have you had some hearing loss?
I'm sorry, what? Actually, to be honest, a year and a half ago, I went and had a hearing study done. I figured this long in this industry and being behind the kit, and I do not wear earplugs or anything when I play,
Right.
and I'm heavy-handed. I had my hearing tested, and I think they said there are 9 hearing ranges that the average human can hear from the highest to the lowest. I think they break it down to 9 categories. I have lost the top one. So the
Oh,
highest pitch sound that we can pick up, obviously they say canines have an unbelievable range, but we only have a range of about, I think it's either 8 or 9. I had the full study done and I've lost the highest pitch. So that's all I've lost. But the other issue that I have found that I have is in crowded rooms and situations, it tends to muddle.
yeah.
And
Well,
there are
that's
times
just
that it's
called
a
getting
little,
old. That's just what
yeah, yeah,
happens.
yeah. I certainly haven't helped that with my profession nor my side gig, but crowds a little bit tougher. But just that one level I've lost, so I'm pretty proud of that fact that that's
That's
all that
great.
I've really lost.
That's great. You never know what's gonna bring it on. I have, pretty bad tinnitus. I've had it for a long time, and, when I was diagnosed, the guy who was the head of the hearing department at the Cleveland Clinic said, "You've got tinnitus, there's nothing we can do about it." And I said, "How did I get it?" He said, "Well, you probably had an event when you were younger where you went and you heard some really loud thing, an explosion or a rock concert or something like that, and then maybe for about a month afterwards, your ears rang, and then it got better." And then over time, it got worse and worse and worse and worse again. And he said, "Do you remember anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, the Who concert in
Oh,
1991."
oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I was sitting like third row left,
At the
and
time, they were the loudest band in the world.
they
Oh
were,
my gosh.
and,
Well, that
and Pete,
explains it.
yeah, so I blame Pete Townsend for the whole
Pete
thing.
Townsend and Roger Daltrey. Yeah,
That's
I
exactly
would
right.
send them the bill.
Oh man. So the other thing that you and I have collaborated on a few times is writing. And you were kind enough to write stuff for me along the way. And kind of I think we worked together on a few things. But you're one of the most I think recognized and awarded superintendent authors out there. Anthony Williams being another one that I really truly admire Anthony's ability to write and generate
He's
copy
fantastic.
and do a great job, and I think you're right there with him. What's the thing you wrote that you think back and thought, "This is the thing I'm most proud of, this particular article I was most proud of?"
I'm I'm going to say two,
Okay.
and I'll be quick. The one that I won the phaser for, the communication article.
Yep.
That was it. That was the time where we didn't have social media. Um, when I won the phaser in '05, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't X, There wasn't, there were just beginnings of email and talking through email. I wrote a communication article about how to communicate better with the people that I worked for, but also the public as well, and talked about ways to simple as bulletin boards up at the golf course with a monthly golf course update for me,
Mhm.
monthly reports to the folks above me. Not being afraid, or I remember saying something of there was a time where superintendents were afraid to come out of the barn, and it was a time that and that was kind of a time of change for us with the explosion in golf, during that time. And for me, it was if you're afraid to come out of the barn, then don't be afraid if you're let go.
Right.
And for me, it was promoting what I did and letting people know how important what we did on a daily basis was to the success, or ultimately could be a failure of a golf course. And I was extremely proud of that article. The fact that it won the Phaser obviously was an amazing time for me. Getting to meet Johnny Miller and Dr. Charlie Sifford. That was
That's
two
right.
people I could say, hey, I shook their hands in a conversation. But
That's
that
right.
article, but the other one that I just did recently, I was really proud of it because it would involved a lot of research, and that was my in 2023. That was just printed this year in GCM. That involved almost a total change in philosophy of the way of managing bent grass greens in this transition zone. I threw everything I've ever learned and done and went back to the drawing board after doing some research on using aerifications and things like that and avoiding in inputs to manage bent grass greens in this area. Conversations with Dr. Michael Woods and several others. And I threw everything I've ever done on this golf course, threw it in the trash and said, I'm going to do it differently. And at this stage in my career, I thought, wow, and am I taking a chance? I am, but I felt it works. And here I am 2 years into this program. I've reduced the thatch in my greens. My greens are better. And I've put down a tenth of a pound to end the entire year. And I did the same thing last year and saw a massive reduction in organic matter and thatch. And I have superintendents that I run into and talk to about the article or just about what I'm doing. I post quite regularly on X about it, and they're going, "I can't believe you've not put any nitrogen down since when?" March, and your greens are okay. Oh yeah, they're good, they're great. But it totally changed my philosophy, and I'm really proud of that one because I've never been afraid to take on or try something new. And this one was pretty radical. I mean, it's core aerification, I don't believe is our friend. And you put me in a room with 100 other superintendents, and I say that out loud. 95 of them may usher me out of the room going, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
But
but I thought, I think Matt Schaefer would be right there with you. Obviously,
yeah,
people like Micah, and the double-edged sword of using a lot of nitrogen.
yeah.
It has certainly is a great tool, but all things in moderation and cultural practices. They're yes, they can be a pain in the butt, but they're really important, but maybe not important enough to rip your greens up every twice a year.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll be brief. When I started in this business in '92, we were told to put 3 to 6 pounds of nitrogen on greens a year.
Yeah, that
I was
was a
just talking
standard.
to Dr. Goatley from Virginia Tech about that. I remember sitting reading the books going, "Boy, if you don't put 3 to 6 down, you're going to be in trouble." I'm going to put a tenth down this year, and I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, it's amazing, and I encourage people to go find that article because I think and reach out to you probably if that's okay,
Oh, that'd be
uh,
fantastic.
because I think that fits right there with where the industry is emerging and how things are changing. So talk about because you've got this dual role now, and in a municipal environment, a government-owned environment, talk about how you've been able to kind of turn this operation around because you took over a course that had some challenges. I think municipal operations always have unique challenges because you have people in the government and you have lots of voices all asking you to do different things. So talk about your time where you're at now and how things have evolved and what you've accomplished.
Well, and in the beginning of COVID, the Heritage Oaks was put up to vote to see whether or not it was going to stay open, survived by one vote. And when I came on as superintendent, we were asked to look at our budgets um, with the former general manager that was here and see if we could make some pretty drastic cuts to get us profitable. This place had been here 20 years at this point and had never been profitable and had lost on average $250,000 a year. And the city had kind of gotten tired of footing the bill going. At some point, this place needs to at least be self-sufficient. And we made some pretty serious cuts. I helped the general manager at the time do it because golf was not her forte. She was a finance person, so we really worked through and cut a lot of monies to make it happen. And then I became general manager not long after I helped her make all the cuts. So I was stuck with what I helped do. And what we really did was, for me, it was simple. Not simple, but it was uh, provide a good golf course. Um, get from it what it was worth. I always thought that Heritage Oaks undercharged for the golf course that it was. This is a beautiful Bill Love golf course. I would be hard pressed to find many municipalities around us within 150 miles that have this layout. It's a gorgeous golf course. I always thought that this place undercharged. I thought our season passes weren't where they needed to be. But the other thing that one of the biggest things I did to help turn it around was I embraced James Madison University. We have a university here with 28,000 kids. And when I really went after JMU a couple of years ago, I said I'd like to have 1% of them that have a college season pass. That's 280 kids times $500. That's a nice dollar figure.
And it's
So
the right thing to do. It's the right thing
yes,
to do.
it's the young golfer. I want them then to come back and play for the next 35, 40 years
Yeah.
after we're both long gone. And I went after them, and we quadrupled the amount of season pass holders from the college kids in less than 3 years. So
That's
we
great.
had an influx of 100 and some thousand dollars into our bottom line. I ran the golf course much more efficiently than it had been. It was a pretty bloated budget, and I felt I could do it for a lot less. We also went into the pro shop, and one of the biggest things that I felt is we were overloaded with merchandise.
Yeah.
Nowadays, more people are going to Dick's and Amazon and
Amazon,
going
right.
places and can get it cheaper than I can
Yeah.
ever sell a golf club. So I thought, why don't we focus on essentials? Golf balls, golf tees, golf gloves. We barely carry any golf clubs. We barely carry any shoes. Why am I going to sell $100 pair of FootJoy when Joe Golfer can go buy them for $70 on Amazon? And
Sure.
it made no sense. So we cut out what we didn't need and focused on the end experience. Better golf course, priced right, and value. And that's what I went after. And the first year, um, we made $60,000 after all the cuts. 2 years ago, we
After
turned
consistently losing a quarter of a million
yeah,
dollars.
quarter of $1 million. 2 years ago, we turned 120,000, and our physical year just ended for fiscal year 2024, and we had $182,000 profit, 31,000 rounds, the most rounds we've ever done, and really proud of the operation. And again, you mentioned a municipality. It's totally different than anything I'd ever been in. I've been in public golf, I've been in private golf, but municipal golf there's a whole lot of moving parts to a municipality. And that was and still continues to be 4.5 years into it. One of the hardest things and challenges for me is realizing it's not just a golf course. There's city government, there's city council. There's a lot of moving parts that are involved with the day-to-day operation of this
And
place.
people who
And
are just as invested in it as
yes,
citizens, as a
yes,
club member would be, because it's their club.
yeah,
It's the
taxpayer
people's club.
dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the phrases I had to get used to was taxpayer dollar because that's rather important here
Yeah.
for us. And we really tackled all of those things over the course of a couple of years. The one thing I didn't get this year that I'm sitting on that I spent a lot of time on, but I lost a budget cut was opening our own restaurant, which I'm going to manage because I am a certified food manager. I got my certification, so I can do that too. So we
Of
were going
course you are.
to, of course I am. So we were going to open that. We're hoping 2025, we're going to open our snack bar. And with that, I can sell alcohol, which I cannot do at this point in Virginia
Yeah.
because you have to sell food to sell alcohol in Virginia.
That's Virginia state law, right?
That is Virginia law.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well,
So,
you've learned a lot of stuff about a lot of things that have nothing to do with nitrogen and
oh my
aerification.
gosh, I'm going to tell you, sitting through almost 4 months of an online food safety and management, if you'd have told me when I got into turf at 22 that there's going to be a time where you're going to be a certified food manager, I just said, there's no way. But here I am. I'll be happy to show you the plaque on the wall. I'm proud of it. I passed the test.
Unbelievable. Well, I mean, so here you are. You're by no means the end of your career. You've done a lot and stuff like that. What do you haven't done yet? What are you still interested in doing? What would be the kind of next big goal for you if the opportunity presented itself?
Well, I have one thing that I did that I didn't do before was I have become much more involved with committee work with GCSAA.
Mhm.
I did a little bit of that my first go around, but I've been involved on some committee each of the last 4 years. And when I came back, um, I have been involved in some sort of pretty, some decent committees with GCSA. That's one of the things that I want to continue to do. I have begun, and God, this is probably foolish, to think about what might be the possibility of running for a board of director position. Um, it's yeah, I've pondered it because I think I bring a lot of things that the average golf course superintendent may not flat out just have dealt with in their career. I've thought a little bit about that. You know, I my long term plans here are really to ride this thing out until the day that I call it quits. We are still growing this thing. We have not reached what I think is our max potential. Not having the restaurant and not having beer sales and being able
Oh,
to,
yeah.
because the long range plan I have for this place is simple. I want to get a snack bar open, but you know what? In about 5 or 6 years, I wouldn't mind forming some sort of microbrewery place that we
Right.
feature. We have so many microbrews close that we maybe partner with somebody that we become the place that people maybe they're not playing golf, but they might come chill and have a microbrew and sit out on a deck that we're going to build and look at the golf course and enjoy a beverage.
How about a Kiss themed microbrewery?
Do you realize if Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, if I could get them to show up for that, it would be a career defining moment. By the way, I've
Oh,
talked to Gene Simmons on the phone
no,
one time.
you did that.
I have, and I will
Okay.
give you a short story. My son's first birthday, my youngest son, was turning 1, and my wife and I went to Richmond to celebrate his birthday. At the same time, Kiss was debuting the Kiss NASCAR at Richmond International Speedway. My sister's used to be a concert photographer. She went down to shoot Kiss at the debut of the Kiss NASCAR. She said, "If I can get Gene or Paul on the phone, will you talk to them?" I'm like, "Really?" So she's standing there and she goes, "My brother really," she meets Gene and Paul and tells Gene, "My son really, my brother really wanted to be here, but his son's having his first birthday party." She goes, "Would you talk to him on the phone?" And Gene goes, "Absolutely." So my phone rings, I answer it, and "Is this Charlie?" "Yes." "Hi, this is Gene Simmons of Kiss." And and my wife was watching me take the phone call and she goes, "I thought you were going to pass out," and I almost did. And he goes, "I understand you were going to come over here today, but you have a special event going on." I said, "I'm such a big fan." and, total fanboy. And I said, "Yeah, my son turns 1." He goes, "What's your son's name?" I said, "My son's name's Jacob." He goes, "Do me a favor. Tell your son happy birthday from us." He goes, "Thanks for being just such a big fan." And what did I do? "I'm such a big fan." And he goes, "Thanks for being a fan." And he goes, "I got to run." And I stood there for a good minute and a half afterwards with the phone in my hand. And my sister comes back on the phone and she goes, "That was Gene Simmons." And I said, "I know it was." So yeah,
Uh,
that
I have
moment, yes, fantastic.
I have a similar story with Paul McCartney that I won't bore you with, but
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I was just gobsmacked. I don't I had thought about it for years what it'd be like if I met this guy, and I had this whole speech written in my head, and I basically he was there in front of me. I reached over and he reached out and grabbed my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Paul." And I was just like, "Hey."
Totally went out the door, didn't it?
So, okay, man, I want to give you one last chance just to say whatever you want to say, but maybe despite all the kind of amazing progression that you've had and everything else, what's been the best thing about being part of this crazy business for so long?
There is a camaraderie in this business amongst the guys and gals who do this, um, you know, that is unmatched. We, in so many other industries, it's a competitive thing. You would, if you were a banker, you would never think about helping the other bank down the street. But
Right.
I got news for you. We we will call each other. I just talked last night to the course 20 minutes down the road from me, it's Chimberley that I used to manage. And the
Yeah.
superintendent there, Stephen Colvin, is such a great guy. And
Yeah.
he and I were just commiserating about this god awful drought we're in here in Virginia. And we're just, here we are talking about how our pre emergence failing and everything like that. When we got done talking, hey man, how's the family? How's the
Yeah.
wife? How the kids? And we got off it going, hey, another 45 days, maybe. Yeah. But I'm not picking on bankers or any other industry, but man, we will help each other in a second. And new product. Hey, I tried this. This works, and we are there for each other. I look at Turf Twitter now, not to be talking about about X, but we have a camaraderie now on Twitter of all of us guys who are following each other, who help each other out, and guys like Paul McCormick who Paul has helped me with my sanity more in the last 8 months than I can ever thank him for
It's great.
with things in my personal life. But the camaraderie and the willing to help the other out, I don't know of many other industries that have this. And it's extremely I missed being in this when I was out of it. And man, I will not leave it now. It's just a great place to be. And I absolutely love this industry.
I'm gonna let that be your last word. Thank you so much for making time for me, and thanks again to our friends at Aquatools for making all of this possible and doing the edit
Absolutely.
soon. And I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best, and I hope you get some rain, man.
I'm begging for it. And by the way, just to throw this out, I have to say it, proud zipline user, and it's getting me through the drought.
There you go. Excellent. That's really perfect. Well, we'll come back and talk about that another time. Thanks, John.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye bye.